In the distant waters of the Arabian Sea rises a fortress shrouded in mystery, a giant of stone that seems to defy the very ocean. Its dark walls emerge directly from the waves as if they were part of nature itself, and for centuries they guarded a secret. No one, absolutely no one, ever managed to break in by force. How is it possible that a place surrounded by water and coveted by entire empires was never conquered? Today we are going to travel through time to discover the mighty fort of Murud Janjira, a historical jewel that combines bravery, strategy, and architecture that continues to amaze to this day. Located about 160 kilometers south of Mumbai, on India's western coast, Murud Janjira stands upon a rocky islet in the middle of the sea. From afar, its silhouette is striking, a circle of walls that seems to have been born from the water, firm, imposing, and solitary. There are no bridges or walkways leading there. The only way to reach it is by boat. That isolation, which for many would be a disadvantage, became the fort's greatest weapon of defense, making it practically impregnable. Its origins date back to the 15th century, when the island was occupied by the Sidi community, descendants of Africans mainly from Kenya and Ethiopia. These men, who began as fishermen and sailors, soon realized the strategic value of that rock in the middle of the sea. What began as a wooden construction eventually transformed, over time and under the constant threats of the Portuguese, Marathas, and even the British, into a stone fortress impossible to take. Every enemy who approached faced not only high walls but also an organized defense and knowledge of the terrain that proved devastating. By the late 17th century, the fort had been completed in its full magnitude. Built entirely of black stone, it boasted 19 defensive bastions and walls over 12 meters high. The project, which took more than 2 decades to complete, was not merely a military outpost. Inside, it functioned as a small autonomous city, with residential areas, barracks, food storage, and freshwater tank. How did they manage to have drinkable water surrounded by salty sea? That was one of the marvels of their engineering. Collection and storage systems that allowed them to withstand sieges for months without depending on the outside. The Sidi ruled the fort with remarkable autonomy. Although in theory they were vassals of the Mughal Empire, in practice no one commanded in Janjira but themselves. For centuries they formed a kind of independent maritime state, defending their territory against the greatest powers in the region. Opposing them were the Marathas, who had rebelled against the Mughals and sought to dominate India's western coast. Their most famous leader, Shivaji, and later his son, tried time and again to conquer Janjira. They raised fleets, planned surprise attacks, and even built a rival fort just a few kilometers away, Padmaturg, with the intention of cutting off the Sidi's naval power. But nothing worked. Janjira stood firm. That rival fort, Padmaturg, lies barely 4 kilometers away, and was completed in 1676. Also built upon an islet, it had bastions and weapon stores, and today it can still be visited by boat. However, despite their efforts, it never managed to overshadow Murud Janjira, which remained undefeated while enemies failed again and again against its walls. The greatness of its architecture is reflected not only in its walls but also in its weaponry. On its bastions stood colossal bronze cannons, among them the legendary Kalal Bangadi, which, with its more than 5 meters in length and weighing 14 tons, was considered one of the largest ever manufactured in India. Its mere presence was enough to deter any fleet that dared approach too closely. The fort had only one main entrance, visible only from very close and designed in such a way that, even when an enemy stood before it, it was difficult to distinguish. It was a trick of military architecture that confused and delayed attackers, giving defenders a crucial advantage. And although today we find only ruins of palaces, dormitories, and storehouses, walking among its stones still conveys the feeling of being inside a city that once pulsed with its own life. Over time, the fort adapted to new political realities. During the 19th century, the British advance in India gradually reduced Janjira's strategic importance. The city eventually integrated into the colonial system, and the fort ceased to function as an active military base. However, it was never conquered, making it one of the few forts in all of India that never fell to enemy force. It was abandoned, slowly covered by erosion and silence, yet its legend never faded. Today, Murud Janjira is a unique tourist attraction. To reach it, one must go to the coastal town of Murud, and from there take one of the traditional wooden boats that carry visitors on a 15-minute journey. There is no formal tourist infrastructure. Each traveler arrives on their own, and, if they wish to learn the secrets of its history, the best option is to hire a local guide who can recount the battles, myths, and curiosities hidden within its walls. Disembarkation is not always simple, as the fort lacks modern docks, making each arrival an experience in itself. For lovers of photography and history, Janjira is a paradise. Its walls facing the sea, the rusted cannons pointing at the horizon, and the contrast between the black stone and the vegetation that covers it during the monsoons turn the place into a dramatic, almost cinematic setting. There are corners where the silence is so deep one can imagine the echo of ancient battles resonating among the bastions. Murud Janjira is more than a fortress. It is a symbol of resistance, cunning, and strategy. It is living proof that the size of an army or the power of its weapons does not always determine the outcome of a battle. Sometimes, what decides history is the intelligence of those who know how to use their environment, the discipline of a determined people, and the will to resist even against superior forces. That is why this monument is not just another ruin in the middle of the sea. It is a challenge to logic, to geography, and to history itself. A reminder that, at times, true strength is not in the walls but in the determination of those who defend them. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to discover more stories of hidden places and monuments that have survived the passing of centuries.